Is it possible for a loving God to exist but still have evil in the world? After all, if God is loving, he'd want to stop evil, right? And if he's powerful, he'd be able to do it. So because we have evil in the world, some people conclude that God is either not good, not powerful, or maybe he doesn't even exist at all. However, if we think about it, not only does evil not disprove the existence of God, it actually proves his existence. First thing we need to understand is that there's two kinds of evil in the world: moral evil and natural evil. Moral evil is a result of choices people make, like mass shootings, terrorism, domestic violence, and the Holocaust. Natural evil, on the other hand, includes things like tsunamis, earthquakes, and heart attacks, things that just happen naturally and not as a direct result of someone's actions. So let's start with moral evil to see if it disproves God. First, we need to realize that if there was no God, there could be no moral evil. Think about it for a minute. If there was no God, there would be no ultimate standard of right and wrong, so we would have no basis for saying that anything is evil. The very fact that we know that evil exists is proof that there is an ultimate standard of right and wrong, which of course is God. So the claim that evil proves there is no God is illogical. Second, evil is possible because God is loving enough to allow us to make choices for ourselves. Nobody would want to live in a world where free will didn't exist. God could have made us pre-programmed robots, but in his love, he gave us free will. Freedom of choice means that we can choose good or evil. Without free will, we couldn't choose to do evil, but neither could we choose to do good. So things that we think of as good would be empty, like love. Love, by definition, cannot be coerced. It has to be freely given. And if we have the choice to give it, we also have the choice not to give it. And there you have evil. Remember the Lego movie? At first it seemed like everything is awesome in Bricksburg, where everything works in perfect harmony. However, as the story progressed, the awesome life began to unravel as President Business clamped down on his micromanagement of the Lego universe and the plastic citizens tried to gain their freedom. Apparently, even minifigures understand that we wouldn't want to live in a world where we weren't free to make choices. By default, however, the ability to make good choices, like love, coexists with the ability to make choices for evil. We can't have one without the other. Third, we blame God for not doing anything about evil, but we have no idea how much evil and suffering God has stopped in the past. In the Old Testament, we have many examples of it. In fact, the reason God commanded the Israelites to destroy the Canaanites in the Promised Land was because the Canaanites were wicked. But that causes some people to question how God could be so hateful that he would destroy those people. So we complain that God doesn't stop evil, then we complain when he does. We can't have it both ways. Fourth, we say we want God to do something about evil, but what if he removed evil by starting with me? I'm not sure I want that. Let's move now to natural evil. It seems like every day we read about some natural disaster like a hurricane or a tsunami. People lose everything in a house fire, or cancer takes the life of a child. It's not like anyone's directly responsible for it. It just happens. Why doesn't God do something about it? First, we have to realize that just as with moral evil, it is ultimately our fault. The reason we experience tragedy of any kind is because of our moral failings. Adam and Eve didn't suffer until they decided to reject God. So ultimately, it is our fault. However, sometimes things happen that aren't a direct result of a person's sin. Why doesn't God just stop these things from happening? One answer might be what some people call the ripple effect. If you throw a stone into a lake, it doesn't only affect the area it lands. Ripples will spread out over the top of the water, changing the whole surface. In the same way, things that happen in our lives today affect the future in ways that we can't predict. We have no way of knowing how the tragedies of the past have shaped the world of today, or how the tragedies we face today will shape the world of tomorrow. Third, the suffering we endure through natural evil helps us grow. If we lived in a world with no suffering, we'd never grow and mature. Could we call that a perfect world? We grow through suffering, and when we learn to respond to suffering with the right attitude, it brings glory to our Maker, which is the whole reason we exist in the first place. And finally, God will ultimately do something about evil. That's what the whole book of Revelation is about. So let's recap what we've learned about God and evil. First, the existence of evil proves the existence of God, because without God, there would be no standard of good, and without a standard of good, we couldn't call anything evil. Second, moral evil exists because God loved us enough to give us free will, and with free will comes the ability to choose to do evil. Third, if God decided to remove evil, he might start with you or me, and we wouldn't like that. As far as natural evil is concerned, the first thing we need to understand is that it is ultimately a result of our sin, just like moral evil. Second, we never know how the ripple effect of the suffering we experience today will affect the future. And third, evil and suffering help us grow and mature, ultimately allowing us to glorify God, which is our whole purpose for living. This might not make you feel any better if you're going through a tragedy right now, but it might help to know that there's a purpose in all of the suffering and pain that you go through. Our evil and suffering does not take God by surprise. He's got a plan that He's working out. And eventually, He will remove evil and pain and suffering from the lives of His children. Until then, we endure it as a necessary result of the freedom that He's given to us. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope I'll see you next time. And let me know in the comments what you think about this video.